Well, hello. Globe and Mail, Benjamin Felix, PWL Capital, has posted an article that says, here's the title, CPP is one of the best retirement assets money can buy, despite what the skeptics say. And he wrote this article in response to, I guess, some scathing, he says, replies to his Twitter X thread regarding people who are skeptical to the Canada Pension Plan, which he believes is one of the best retirement assets that money can buy. Wow, I think that is sad, but okay. I'm going to go through his article here a little bit and share with you why he believes this is one of the best retirement assets money can buy, and I'm going to tell you, in my own opinion, why that's not necessarily the case. He talks about CPP being a social insurance plan, and yes, it is a social insurance plan. It was registered in 1966, and people were asked to sign up as a part of your social insurance number as the benefit to that. And then in addition to that, one of its primary objectives was to reduce poverty amongst seniors. He talks here about the enhancements that have been made to the Canada Pension Plan, and that these enhancements are funded by an increase in CPP contributions. So we were being taxed, now we're being taxed more. We're just calling it an enhancement. I love the language that's being used. Even contributions, it's not a contribution, it is what it is, it's a tax. And if it's being taken out of your money, your pocket, involuntarily, you don't have a choice. Then what else is it if it's not a tax? So call it a tax by any other name, it's still a tax. He talks here about the employer and the employee contributions in 2025. So I've been talking about where they currently stood in 2023 and where they currently stand in 2024. They go up again next year. So next year, you'll be taxed up to the $78,000 income level. And of course, that's with the enhancement. And so he talks about the employer and the employee contribution to that actually being $8,848, which is up from $8,110 this year currently. So a significant increase. Again, that's money that's coming out of your pocket, out of your paycheck. No one's asked you whether or not you want to participate in this. You're just told you will. He thinks that the reasons for the distaste about the sizable CPP contributions is that the belief that people think they could actually do it better on their own with private savings and investments. And he believes that this demonstrates a lack of understanding of what the CPP provides. Now, I have already shared with you numbers based upon 2023 contribution numbers. And you could actually amass probably $1.2 million yourself with just a modest 5% if you'd taken that contribution. Now, I've taken his new numbers. And if I take his new numbers and starting at age 20, you contributed the $737.33, which is the contribution amount of $8,848 a year. And you did that every year at the beginning of the month, so $737 here at the beginning of each and every month. In 45 years, when you were set to retire, which if you want to, then turn it into an annuity, but you're not going to do that now, $1.451 million. Okay, you will have contributed, $360,000 probably to the Canada Pension Plan. And you will be lucky if you see that money back, because that's how annuities work. And he says that you can't actually do this on your own, and that you can't actually find annuities. You can go into any bank right now, any bank, any financial institution, any insurance company, and they will be happy to sell you an annuity. This is usually a tool that is used for people who are retired, right? They have amassed their wealth. Now they want to take that wealth and turn it into a guaranteed income. Now, they're also very expensive because it is insured, right? It's like buying an insurance plan. Like, you could outlive it, you could maybe not live as long, in which case that's to the benefit of the company who sells you the annuity. But if you live longer, well, that's to their expense. So they're hedging their bets based upon a number of things, but you pay for that service, and it's not an inexpensive service. Annuities are very expensive. So your $1.451 million, though, that is your hedge against, you don't need to be relying on the Canada Pension Plan or an OAS if you have that kind of money sitting in the bank. And this is what's available to anybody who's making over $78,000 right now. It started with this and has contributed 45 years. That money is your guaranteed income. Now you just have to take that. You could take that 1.45 million at that stage at 65, put it into an annuity, and you're not living off of $1,400 a month. You're living off of $9,000 a month if you're planning to 85. If you're planning even to 95, you're still living off about $7,000 a month. So. And that's not with earning, astronomical returns. That's just a 5%, modest rate of return year over year. He seems to think that nobody can outperform what the Canada Pension Plan has done. And I'm like, well, if we took a look at what the Canada Pension Plan has done, 9.6%. If we're doing that yourself and we're able to achieve 9%, I'm hesitant to even give you the amount of money. It's almost $6 million that you would have amassed in your own bank account. You think you're going to be worrying about CPP or OAS or any of the government programs if you had that kind of money in your bank account? But the reality is you could have taken that money that the government takes from you. You could have put that into an exchange traded fund, an ETF. You could have put that into a Questrade, a Wealth Simple, a Vanguard ETF, which is probably one of the more expensive at 90 basis points and lower. And the average rate of return in the S&P 500 has been 11.13% for the last 50 years. So the reality is, can you do this on your own? Absolutely. Do you need to be a financial genius to have done this? Absolutely not. You could have put it into an ETF and earned 11.13%. So, to say that people are incapable or not smart enough to do this on their own, or that demonstrates a lack of understanding, is what he said. And the other thing here is he doesn't address lost opportunity cost. So if I put this money in, I'm managing it on my own. Something happens that I need. I have flexibility, right? It's mine. I can leave it to my spouse. I can leave it to my children. It's not going back to the government if I die prematurely with no benefit to my family. So, again, we talk about things without really fully examining all of the risks and all of the costs. He actually goes so far here as to say that inflation indexed annuity, the only true risk-free asset, but even investing with the government and having a government program, there are risks involved with that. The government has to have the ability and the finances and the means over the long term in order to pay this back to you, which is why the Canada Pension Plan changed in 1997 to start investing funds, and the government gave up control over the CPP investments and allowed more flexibility for it to be actually invested by professionals and not the government. And in addition to that, there is a significant unfunded liability around the CPP to the tune of $1.14 trillion as of 2021, and that number is growing every year. So I'm not quite sure what it is today. We'll find that out when the next actuarial report comes out. And so there are risks. It doesn't matter what investment you make. When you cross the road, for heaven's sakes, even if you look right and you look left, there are risks. You cannot say anything is truly risk-free. That's not necessarily a true statement. And again, you can walk into any bank and buy an annuity. He says here that you cannot accomplish this on your own as an individual. I can walk in after amassing my $1.451 million because I've been very diligent. The government was going to take it from me. So I said, hey, don't you take it. I'll keep it and I'll put it in an investment and just earn 5% on it on my own, $738 a month. And then at 65 now, I want this to turn into an income, and let's say I want to take no risk. I will convert this to an annuity. At that stage, I can walk that over to any insurance company, any financial institution, and they will happily allow me to buy an annuity. It's expensive because, again, it is a guaranteed income. So they are going to take a number of factors into account and determine kind of the best idea range as to where they think you're going to land as far as lifespan, whether you want to plan to be 85 or when you want to plan to live to 95. And then you have some decisions to make. But I can go buy an annuity, even if I only amass, let's say, $350,000. and I walked that over to RBC. I ran the numbers here in their annuity calculator. And at age 65, I start. I would be drawing $14,000 a year, or almost $1941 a month. Right now, compared to CPP, that's $1,400 a month. So I would be getting more for my money. I had done this personally rather than relied on the government to do it for me. He talks here about inflation risk and that providing sufficient returns to outpace inflation, but they do not offer an inflation hedge. There are a tremendous number of assets out there that provide inflation hedges, and to think that you can't do it on your own or with a good financial advisor is, again, not truthful. And I really question, I don't think this individual works with people necessarily and their personal portfolios, although it does say he is a portfolio manager. I would question, the fact that, to say that individuals can't do this on their own, that bewilders me a little bit. He uses a traditional 60-40 stock portfolio, but as I've already said, you could go just stick this into an ETF at S&P and have earned over the last 50 years an 11.13% rate of return. He, in his article, actually uses two different kinds of rates of return. He talks about internal rate of return, IRR, at one point, and then he shifts over to talk about real rate of returns. And in my opinion, again, if you're going to talk about a rate of return, pick one and stick with it, because that is somewhat misleading in and of itself. So strategically, says investing in the long term, often illiquid assets, would be unsuitable or unattainable. If you're investing and you start investing, you've got 45 years. And even as an Alberta pension plan, these are going to be pooled assets with, sizable sums. So again, size does matter. You want to be a player at the table, and if in order to get invited as a player at the table, you just want a couple of $1 billion sitting in your bank account, right? Which the Alberta Pension Plan will definitely have that. And they will be invited to participate in infrastructure projects, long-term investments that the CPP currently gets invited to the table, and other private investment funds in Canada, which many of my investors and clients have been participating in for a decade or more, offer pension-style investments where they provide hedges against inflation and very CPP-like investment opportunities to participate through pooled assets. So it can be done. And again, when he talks about costs of the guaranteed income stream, he doesn't talk about the cost of guaranteeing the income stream. Annuities are very expensive. And if I were to take my 1.451, it's not cheap. They're going to charge me significantly in order for them to guarantee that income. But he talks about the rate of return for the Canada Pension Plan as being a focal point. So that 9.6%, that really doesn't impact individual investors. My 5% gets me 1.41. Here I am. It doesn't matter whether the CPP makes 10% or 10,000%. The maximum benefit that I can receive from that is the maximum government regulated rate that they assign to the program. So their rate of return is not relevant from a standpoint of me individually as to what I can do with the money, and I have no flexibility, and I am not able to leave any of this to my spouse or to my children. So again, there's a cost to everything, right? So understand fully what the costs are, and he doesn't speak to that at all. So the other one here, and I'll leave it at this, he's talking about trends. I always like to talk about trends because he's talking about, the cost of the contributions, but where's the trend? We've seen that contribution number going up and up and up and up and up. A big risk to the government CPP is the fact that these contributions and the cost to you, the taxpayer, continues to go up and up and up, and who knows, maybe the benefit stays the same, maybe it increases, or perhaps maybe it decreases as people realize come 2026, and I spoke about this in my meetings as well, that 2026 will be the first year where we see the expenditures exceed the benefits or the contributions. That means that $590 billion that's now currently sitting with the CPP investments, they're going to have to start dipping into that to pay out those people who are drawing their Canada Pension Plan, because the contributions now that come in are no longer enough. So we have more people on the cost side drawing their Canada Pension Plan than we have workers contributing. And that should actually be a little disturbing for most people, because it is a disturbing fact in essence. And there's only three ways to fix that. You either increase contributions, which they have been doing and will most likely continue to do. And in Alberta, by doing it on our own, we can actually reduce our contributions. Why? Because we have over-contributed substantially and continue to over-contribute to the tune of about $3 billion per year to the Canada Pension Plan. That means we can substantially reduce our contribution, and or we can invest that money and build up our own reserves. So many options that we could do, and that trend in Alberta, with our demographics being what they are, being the youngest in Canada, also contributing the most, as well as lowest unemployment, highest incomes, all of these things. Consider the fact as well that we are actually a pro-growth environment here in Alberta, unlike Canada. Federal policies, most of what we're talking about here, a lot of this has just been really crappy government policies is what's got us here, and I'm not seeing any direction or any shifts to see that the government is actually shifting their policies to make that change. Again, the three biggest factors that influence the pension plan is the economy, which Alberta has a very strong economy and a very young workforce on the demographic side of things. We over-contribute, so we have high incomes. All of these things are a benefit and a plus, and we outperform Canada. And in addition to that, immigration, which Canada has just managed to completely blunder and screw up, is actually costing Canada more than it is actually creating supposedly a benefit. So back to the three ways that you could fix this: either you increase the contributions, you increase the number of people contributing, or you decrease the number of people who are drawing on the Canada Pension Plan, your benefactors. So one of those three things has to happen, or a combination of all thereof, in which case we're seeing pressure on all fronts, whether it's MAID, to reduce the number of people who are drawing, and or whether it's in contributions that are going up. And of course, the federal government's idea was to flood the market with new immigrants, which what we're seeing is that's created more problems and actually has had the reverse effect of prosperity, and is actually creating a dire situation for Alberta and all of Canadians. So I have gone through this very, very quickly because I didn't want to rant on for too long, but obviously everything is a matter of perspective. This gentleman is writing this from a perspective of, I do believe he lives in Vancouver or Vancouver Island. As an Albertan, there is nothing in here that discourages me at all from still reassuring you all that the Alberta Pension Plan is by far still the best option for Albertans. It will provide Albertans, especially our younger generations, with far greater financial security, in my opinion, than what a Canada Pension Plan will. So everything is a matter of perspective. I mean, if you're in Newfoundland and Labrador, and yeah, you're relying on Alberta right now, or even if you're from Ontario and you're relying on Albertans to be a net contributor and prop up, the fact that you're not contributing enough, then absolutely, you do not want to see Alberta leave the Canada Pension Plan. But that's all the more reason why Albertans, we need to leave, because we are over contributing. I did mention, I think in a video a couple of days ago, about equalization. If I went and knocked on every door and said, hey, what if we stopped equalization payments to Canada tomorrow? I would say 80% of Albertans would be in favor of that. The Canada Pension Plan and what we're doing currently, we are over contributing by $3 to $5 billion a year. And that's in essence exactly what we're doing. How about we stop the equalization payment? We keep that money. We still keep the same benefits. We don't necessarily have to cost us anything more. Actually, would cost us most likely less. And worst case scenario, it stays the same, but we could save ourselves $3 to $5 billion by keeping it here at home and keeping the money in Alberta, as opposed to giving it away to the rest of Canada, who's just become dependent on Alberta's handouts. And again, the new enhancements are disproportionately, again, disfavorable to Albertans because we do have the highest incomes. So, if you're going to talk about risks, then please, by all means, talk about risks, or benefits, talk about the risks, and be honest about the risks, the lost opportunity costs. Annuities are very expensive. And the fact that, you don't usually shift into something like an annuity to generate income until you're 65. And up until that point, you're pretty much amassing your wealth and trying to mitigate your risk, obviously, but you're taking more risk in your younger years. And then, of course, maybe tailing off that little bit to more medium risk in your midlife, maybe later as you get closer to retirement. But I found this one particularly interesting. This gentleman, is the head of research here for PWL, creates white papers, model portfolios. I don't think necessarily he works with a lot of people, or at least I hope not, from what I've read here and some of the statements that he's made. would just offer some really, in my opinion, bad advice, but known for its publicly available thought leadership. Um, that's it. I did extend an invitation for Mr. Felix to reach out to me, and I would more than welcome an opportunity to have a conversation with him on this channel to see whether or not he is willing to defend his statements. And I am certainly more than willing to listen to see what he has to say. And if he can defend his position, that's great.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?